It was funny. I was at WBAL yesterday, and I was looking out, and I was seeing all the snow, and I said, off in the distance, I see the lights, and I'm like, oh, God, we're playing lacrosse there in just a couple of days. Next up on the hot seat here on our college lacrosse preview show, Patrick Stevens in studio with us today. He is the head coach of the Greyhounds. He's our friend Charley Toomey, and he's back with us now. Coach, it's good to see you. Thank you, as always, taking the time for us. Oh, you got to unmute yourself, Coach. You got to. Oh, no. Oh.
I did it.
Oh, you did the thing. You did
the thing.
What's up, buddy?
I should be good because we had to Zoom with our team yesterday. We had our practice was indoors and from the confines of my dining room, and coach, all the coaches were at home. We couldn't get up here. God. So it is what it is.
So you alluded to something I was going to bring up. It must be great to have a bubble right now.
I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. It went down.
No. What happened?
We scrimmaged Richmond Saturday, got in and out. I got a text from Teddy Burns, our assistant AD, and she said, guys, just want to let you know the dome is down. So I drove in. It's a sad day here. But listen, we're just like everybody else now, right? And to be honest with you, and the weather that it is, we would have been in there and out of there. Like, we got to acclimate to this stuff. If you're going to play in it, you got to acclimate. And now we don't have to worry about even the challenge of, are we in or out, right? We're out. And, so like everyone, we're going to be really smart with our athletes. It might mean some shorter practices and some more up and down just to keep them moving. If you've been here at Ridley, the sunny side is the side of the road. So we'll move our benches over there to just kind of stay in the sun a little bit longer. There's no school here today. Who knows what tomorrow will look like. Like I said, it's I drove, I made that turn at the scoreboard and just saw, a really, it looks like Chernobyl over there. It's bad, but
boy.
They're on it and they're working towards getting it back up.
Coach, obviously, we don't have to belabor it is what I'm trying to say, obviously. I talk for a living, as you know. We don't have to belabor it. Last season did not go the way that you guys wanted it to go. What did you see from the group late in what was a trying year with a young team? What did you see from that group going and getting some conference wins and playing with pride that encourages you going into this season?
So a lot of things, Glenn. What I would start with is, the fight was there, right? Like, game in, game out, six games by one goal, was a challenge for anyone. And we were just on the wrong side of those. And whether or not that was a Maryland game or, a game early in the season, or a game later in the season, right? Like a 1-goal game. We needed to learn how to win those games. And again, it's not an excuse. It's a reality. Like, we had a lot of young players in our program. I think the thing that I'm most proud of was that the fight was always there, and that, in a year where it's easy to kind of jump ship, right? Like, it's easy to just say, I'm going to look elsewhere. I'm going to go into the portal and test the waters. Not one young man just came into my office and said, Coach, I'm going to take a look at some of the other things that might be out there. They believe. And like every coach, when you're going through that, you're meeting with your athletic director. You're 0-8, 0-9, and you're having weekly meetings like, what's going on and how are we addressing this and how's the locker room? And, I'm very fortunate to play for an athletic director that I would walk in and say, I know you're getting phone calls. Right? Like, I know from our alumni and from parents, like, I'm sure your phone is ringing. She goes, yeah, it is. She goes, they all want to know what they can do to help. The kids love it. The kids love playing there. They love playing for your staff. They love the university. Like, they just want to do something to help the kids, and alumni too. Our best year fundraising came off of last year, and they want us to go back to where we're capable of being. Again, it starts with the kids in the locker room. They believe, and they're having a great experience. And I think there are a lot of things that you can learn from a tough year like that. And I've never had one. I told them we were going through it together. Um, and the fight was there. And I think that's the thing that I'm most proud of is that there were no quitters, right? Like there was a lot of fight and our ability to kind of refocus this year and learn from it. I hope we'll see. But I like what I have seen. I like the idea that we have 19 sophomores now, and you're just seeing a maturity, and some of that is physicality and a year in the weight room in Division I lacrosse. It was a lot, and the reason we had 19 freshmen is because we graduated two classes. We graduated a graduate class and a senior class. Again, the experience here is that guys are not looking to just jump ship and go somewhere else. They recognize the importance of the sport here at Loyola and how much Loyola cares and wants to give us the opportunity to be successful year in, year out.
Charlie, I imagine a guy that has a really good appreciation for all that is Justin Ward. Now back on campus as your offensive coordinator. How exciting is it to have him back, and how has he kind of integrated himself into things and embraced the role after coming over from Army?
Yeah, I will tell you. We've kind of kept a small eye on George on him since he was at Georgetown and certainly up at Army. And there have been opportunities probably in years past to have that conversation. And there's no doubt he is going to be a very good Division I head coach down the road. But right now, I think the excitement that he is bringing as an alum, another alum on our staff, one that's been very, very successful, both in our locker room as a captain and as a player, but also as a coach, elsewhere. The guys are responding really well. And what it allows all of us to do is kind of talk about the history of our program, offensively, defensively, and the buy-in. Like I said, the excitement from day one with the fall is just there. He connects with our athletes. He connects with our offensive players in a really meaningful way. He first came in. I'll give you a little story. He just said, Coach, over the summer, I was making phone calls to all the players. I just wanted to introduce myself. And I asked the question, what is the culture like? What is it? What is Loyola's culture, their ethos like? What is it? What do you stand for? And he goes, Coach, I got a lot of different answers, family, toughness, a lot of things that, kind of, and you ask any player and they're in a locker room and they care an awful lot, they're going to say those types of words, discipline, things like that. And what we talked about as a staff is like, listen, let's refocus. Let's refocus on our culture. Let's give them a couple things that when somebody asks, what does it mean to be a loyal lacrosse player? It's going to roll off their tongue, right? And so that was an opportunity as a staff very early to sit down and identify some things that we think are really important, that we can use in recruiting, that we can use in our locker room, that we can use out of a timeout, right? Like what is me being a loyal? What is the Hound way, on and off the field? What does that look like? And we were able to do that. And we're very fortunate to go on a retreat and address those things and really dive into them. And it wasn't just it wasn't a coach's exercise. It was our players. It was our captains that were involved in it. We presented it to our alumni, on a Zoom, and they loved it. And, we've had a lot of great feedback, but I will tell you, this past semester, fall semester, we had our highest GPA as a team ever, and for the first time, probably because I was here and Justin and Coach Dwan and all of us, but we were the number one male team on campus, highest GPA. So, that is the Hound way in action off the field, kind of just aspiring to be a little bit better and, just really, just a lot of great things that really started with, let's talk about our culture and who we've been, where we want to go, and how we're going to do this together.
He's Charley Toomey, Loyola lacrosse coach, with us on our college lacrosse preview. Coach, I think offensively, Matthew Minikis is a known, obviously. There were a lot of guys that all kind of had moments otherwise, but maybe weren't very consistent for you a season ago. Are you starting to see one or two of those guys who you feel like are ready to become consistent goal scoring options for you this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've got a couple, again, they were freshmen, but I think what we have seen is that guys are taking that next step, certainly in practice, and we're starting to see it a little bit in action, with the limited scrimmages that we had via the fall and spring. Guys, a local product in Mason Cook,
Yep.
right? He's playing really well, and we're seeing a connection that is being created between he and Minnow. But also Keenan Everhart was on the field for us. Like we didn't graduate an awful lot, offensively. I want to say almost like 95% of our points returned there. Um, and Miles Halter, Will McCullough, those are young men. Grady O'Day, from an attack standpoint, those guys got a lot of minutes for us. And again, we're growing up. It was baptism by fire for some of those young bucks. But we've seen some really good things, and I like how they're being challenged on the offensive end, and the idea that you have a Sean Cottle and a Justin Ward kind of developing those guys, right? Like, and two sets of eyes rather than in the years past, it may have been one set of eyes down there. Guys like Brady Quinn, Luke Murphy's been a mainstay for us in the midfield. Um, I would say, Henry Haberman, Connor Wilbur has really kind of turned our heads a little bit. Um, Brady West, and Ryan McGorry have really been guys that have kind of stepped into their own, and kind of some of them have been on very successful teams. And some of them have kind of gone through that moment and are now fifth year seniors that can kind of talk about their scars and what we need to do to take that next step, how we got to push each other in practice, and just kind of be prepared, for anything that the world throws at us. And we're all dealing with the adversity of this weather, and you name it, like how we're handling that moment will determine an awful lot, because so arguably some of your biggest games are your first couple.
Charlie, the last 3 years you guys have been under 50% at the X, but Carson Hall was over 50% and took the bulk of the draws last season. What's next for him, and do you feel like that unit is becoming more and more of a strength this year?
Yeah, I do, and I would tell you that due to injury, it's been a real challenge. When you've got three guys, and then all of a sudden you have an injury to one of them. You've got two guys that you've got the ability to work with week in, week out. So having four right now, three that are relatively healthy going into this weekend, it's created competition in practice, and we feel really good, about the development of that group. I think Mason Graves and Aiden Kamerer and Carson Hall all are capable of taking faceoffs on the weekend, and obviously we don't feel like we have to have one guy, that's running out there. We don't have a Bailey Savio, a Graham Savio that's just he's gonna take every face off. We feel like we've got the ability to kind of make a couple changes, maybe smaller, faster, get the ball out, get to it, or a guy that can match up and be a little bit more strength on strength, if you will, and try to go with a power clamp. So it's been good, but again, it becomes real very quickly.
Is it, where are you, like, again, we'll go to the, I know there's always competition, we always say those things, but a guy that has a lot of experience, Max Watkinson back in goal, another guy that I would say maybe had his moments, right? Like, where is your confidence level in him going into the season?
Yeah, he's had a great spring. And I really challenged that group, to really three goalies to just kind of step up, and who's going to win this job, and again, yes, you're a starter, you're coming back, but you're coming back to it for a team that was 0-10 at one point. And so from a leadership standpoint, we challenged all of them. As a goaltender myself, I'm always kind of statting things and looking at, okay, if you're going to rebound the ball, there's a chance we're going to have to play an extra long possession. I want us to really work on catching the ball and making a great decision in the clearing game. And Max he's answered every bell. And last week we had our last scrimmage. He played the first quarter, and then we kind of sat him down. He had a great first quarter, and we just said, okay, now we got to develop our bench a little bit and give Ben the second and the third. And I would tell you, where you start is not always where you finish, right? Like, so that challenge, that group, that camaraderie of that unit is excellent. And they all know you got to be ready in a moment's notice. I don't want my goalies looking over their shoulder at the sideline every time a goal goes in. But that is a position of need for us that we've just got to make, clean saves, and we've got to try and be able to get the ball out and down to our offensive end a little more consistently than we did last year.
Charlie, kind of a big picture concept we've been bringing up with all the coaches this morning is you're playing games in January at this point, and the idea of, does the schedule need to be altered, shifted, pick whatever word you want. Is that something that you think, you're talking about, looking outside and there's all this ice all over the place, like, is it time for that conversation to maybe be a little bit louder? Because I know the conversation has been taking place on a number of fronts, whether it's with RPI formula and whatnot, and that element of scheduling and what have you, maybe moving the Final Four, whatever it is, just to kind of get yourself in a spot where a game like Loyola Georgetown this Saturday might be played in somewhat better weather that people could actually enjoy.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that a couple times this week I've spoken with some other coaches, and they're like, "What are we doing?" Right? I think number one, my first reaction to that is, well, this is a calendar year where it is as early as it possibly can be. You'll get another week back next year. So this is just from a calendar standpoint has created real challenges for us. I think Coach Mead had it right. Many years ago when he was chairing the IMLCA, he talked about, why don't we move our national championship to June 14th? It's still a patriotic day. We can play it around Flag Day. Like, it doesn't have to be Memorial. I think everybody's so set in their ways. But there are discussions around what that would look like, from a I guess a budget standpoint, keeping kids on campus after exams, per diem. And, I think that I think it could be done. I think it's a big conversation with a lot of ADs and presidents. If that's I don't think lacrosse coaches are gonna make that decision. I will say, I think from a competitive advantage, we would all, and I've spoken with Coach Amplo this week. I mean, I don't know if he was on earlier than I know he's a big proponent of what are we doing right now. But if it meant travel partners in our league to go up to play, with Navy, Lehigh, and Lafayette, and it's a Friday, Sunday, I think if there are things that we can do as leagues to be creative, that I think would be a little bit more advantageous for the safety of our athletes, but also just the fan base, that are coming out to these games for sure. I will also say that, and Glenn, you've been here, like some of our nicest games have been our openers. They've been nicer than some of our mid-February
games. It is weird
games.
how it's worked out, and we obviously, every time it's you guys host a Maryland, you host a Hopkins, you host a Georgetown. It's insane the crowds that are coming out that early on in the year. It's dumb luck sometimes, but yes,
No doubt.
I appreciate that. Charlie, always appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you this Saturday. I did notice that maybe changing processes, Patrick. Charlie had me out to talk to the guys before the season last year. I did notice I didn't get that invite this year. I did notice that might be sometimes you need to change when the results aren't there. You have to change the process.
Glenn, I got to tell you, you're no Newt Rockney.
Hey, you're always welcome. You guys are all always welcome. I'm looking forward to getting down to Sabatino's for these Friday meals prior to home games. So you're both always welcome to join us.
Charlie, I appreciate you. Love you, brother. Thank you for taking the time for us, and we'll see you out there this Saturday. All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Loyola Georgetown this Saturday at Ridley Athletic Complex to open up the season for the Greyhounds. They got work to do, obviously, and we alluded to that. And you bring up, I think Justin Ward is a really compelling part of that conversation and what he's going to have to offer. But there's a standard, and I know that obviously everybody at Loyola wants to get back to that standard after a 3-11 season a year ago.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things about Loyola has been, and I suspect you'll agree with this, is that there's always been a little extra faith placed in, well, they're usually good. They're usually a Patriot League contender. And I kind of think back to even their national title year where they internally made a big deal about not being in the preseason top 20. And so there's a little bit of that in the back of your mind, even though it's been that long ago, like, these guys are capable of really, surprising people. Well, when you go 3-11, it's on you to prove it now.
Yep.
Like you're not going to get any undue credit going into a season after you had the year you had last year. You're just not. And so at the same time, they do have a lot of guys back. We talked about how the offense is basically entirely back intact with a new coordinator. Now, they've got to figure out a way to score more.
Yep.
But, it would not be astonishing if we saw Loyola as a top 3 team in the Patriot League. And maybe even a little better than that if some of these guys really do progress a great deal. I think you still have to consider Army and BU the favorites in that league. But if they were 3rd or 4th, I don't think anybody would be all that surprised, because there still is a fair bit of talent. It is just undeveloped physically last year with all those young guys, and undeveloped experience-wise.